everything to everything beyond us. We let it go, and now it's here. It's here, and it's not visiting anymore. It wants to stay. The Empire is a disease that thrives in darkness. It is never more alive than when we sleep. It's easy for the dead to tend to fight, and maybe it's true, maybe fighting's useless. Perhaps it's too late. But I'll tell you this. If I could do it again, I could wake up early and be fighting these bastards.
Hey, everybody. You're listening to and possibly watching the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
And as you can see, we do not have Caleb on that side. He is not here today because we have a very special show. And these are two gentlemen that have joined us in the past when we convened to talk about Star Wars. There's a lot of Star Wars stuff going on. So we thought it was ripe time to bring these gentlemen back. You will see there's Craig, Lantz. Craig, say hello, please.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be back. Looking forward to the show. We don't do them quite often enough. But
No. This was too long a gap, and I'll talk about that. And then we also have our friend Mike Lovins back with us as well.
Hello, gentlemen. Thank you for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. So, as we mentioned, we've done these shows before, but this has been a very unnecessarily wide gap between shows. We haven't had you guys on since 2021. So, first of all, with that date, the pandemic is no excuse. So,
I was going to blame the pandemic.
I was going to say lack of content, but there hasn't been a lack of content.
No, not at all.
There has been a massive amount of content, which is maybe we were just overwhelmed by so much content that we're like, when can we get together and talk about this stuff? Well, there's so much stuff to talk about. What are we going to do?
Yeah. We got to focus.
Well, real quick, I love Bill's shirt. I had that same shirt for
the bounty hunters from the smugglers. Smugglers
from the smugglers crate. I grew out of mine. I became an adult and got too big for it.
Well, I don't want to stand up. Let me put it that way.
I could only stretch a shirt so much before it no longer fits.
But the smugglers boxes from Funko were so much fun.
They were a good time.
I missed them. There was a Marvel had a version, which I never picked up. I think maybe I had one.
I did.
DC had the Legion of Collectors. I missed those so much.
Yeah, I did the
DC,
the Marvel, and the Star Wars.
Yeah. So
loot crates.
Yeah.
Loot Crate isn't even active anymore, are they?
No, they're done.
Yeah, that's a shame. But blind boxes were fun till they were. Yeah.
They do a wrestling box now.
Yeah. That's kind of cool.
I get the t-shirts. It's worth the cost of the 2 t-shirts.
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah. Especially now, like a lot of t-shirts are crazy expensive.
One of our friends, Chris Roman, he made a deal with his son that his son would get the t-shirts and he'd get the Funko Pops.
Oh, there you
go. From the box each time. But then I think there was a shirt he really wanted, so they had a fight.
I've been on the show for 5 minutes and I've already completely derailed us from story.
But it's related. So, and also in terms of the gap, some of this is polluted by the fact that we talk to each other all the time.
Right.
So it did skew. But when we were looking, I was thinking like, well, maybe it was like 2023. Maybe it was 2 years, and it was 4 years. I cannot believe
I think we talked about trying to do it around Ahsoka, and then
a couple of times. I think even with the Acolyte, we also mentioned it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So
I'm still
to start things off. Let me do this. I'm gonna list the number of shows that have transpired between our last time that we convene to talk Star Wars.
It's only been one or two, right?
Oh, it's been a lot.
Don't leave out animation.
Oh, no. I'm actually going to start with the animation. And if anybody wants to interject about whether some of these projects were a particular favorite of yours or not, please do. All 3 seasons of The Bad Batch
Loved it.
occurred.
Wow. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it.
I still haven't gotten to the 3rd season.
Oh, you really have to, Bill.
I know, like I've heard my heart is going to get broken, and I'm going to get mad. So we'll see.
I mean, that's what Star Wars does when it's good.
Yeah.
There is a book coming out that takes place during season 2.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah,
A comic or an actual
a novel.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Star Wars Visions
Mhm.
happened while we were away.
A lot of my friends are big fans. It's hit or miss for me.
It's fun what if stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see the interpretations, like different studios interpreting how they want to portray, the Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah, and we can get into that with an announcement from Celebration as well. Star Wars Tales of the Jedi and Star Wars Tales of the Empire.
Loved them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very good.
Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures.
I know it's for little kids, and I am a shill for anything Star Wars. But man, they're so cute.
They are cute.
Come on,
They are
Nubs.
cute.
I don't even watch the show, and I love Nubs.
Yeah, Nubs. I can't wait for Jedi Master Nubs, to be honest with you.
And then going to the regular, and there are some some of the really short end stuff like Galactic Pals and Zen Grogu and Dust Bunnies, so there are some there is some content on there on Disney Plus and on Star Wars YouTube channel. The 3rd season of The Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that transpired since we last got together. The Book of Boba Fett.
Wow, that was
that was in December 2021. Yeah,
I had higher hopes for that, but I didn't hate it. I am not a hater.
I didn't.
I'm with you, Mike.
I thought there were some sequences that went on too long, like his early time. There was too much of the Tusken Raider backstory.
Have you guys ever seen the videos? There's a guy that does like made a movie out of Kenobi, and he made a movie out of Ahsoka, and like edited down Book of Boba Fett and turned it into 2 movies, and all of the early stuff was its own movie, and then the later stuff was its own movie. And it's amazing, like just for the fun of it, it's really cool stuff. Like I'm not like, oh, that's how they should have done it, but it's a fun novelty thing.
It's interesting. Before we joined on the call, before we actually started the video feed, we were talking about The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2. And when The Godfather and Godfather Part 2 first aired on television, that's what they did. They had it in sequence as The Godfather Saga. So, which is a really different kind of experience.
I do love that cut of The Godfather where they play it all chronologically. But Book of Boba Fett, I think the issue with that, in my opinion, I liked it, but I think the issue with it was the Boba Fett we wanted is actually Din Djarin.
I think there's an argument to be made for that.
They kind of wrote Din Djarin into being the Mandalorian, the Boba Fett that we all expected we were going to get.
Well, because at the time they wanted to make a Boba Fett series, and they were like, no.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. We mentioned before Obi-Wan Kenobi. That transpired.
Loved it.
The first season of Andor. The first season of Ahsoka.
Which was not bad. And I think with Ahsoka, I think with Ahsoka, I didn't know what to expect, but I did not expect as much of a direct Rebel sequel as it was, and I love the fact that it was.
I do too, but calling it Ahsoka is almost a misnomer there.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like Ahsoka and everybody,
and the Rebel. Ahsoka
and the Rebel. Calling Andor anything other than the Rebellion is also kind of, it's we get into that in a minute, but
I can say that for my other half, Rob, Ahsoka was by far his favorite Star Wars thing ever, and it actually led him to like binge watching all 4 seasons of Rebels within like
Nice.
Oh wow.
I've been trying to figure out how to get
Just, like,
Stephanie watches a lot of the shows with me, and I've been trying to figure out how to introduce her into Ahsoka because of the fact that she hasn't watched any of the animated stuff. So
Oh, yeah.
And then we also have, this is from earlier last year, The Acolyte, the single season of that show.
I'm still heartbroken over that show.
Yeah.
Because it's not getting a second season, or wasn't what you wanted?
Canceled. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I love the show. So
okay. All right.
That may not be a popular opinion, but
I liked what they were trying to do with the show.
Yeah.
And I like the characters, but I think that there were certain sequences I
liked how
I mean that's anything. Like
was.
Yeah.
I think it needed
I watched every
another,
episode.
Yeah, and I liked
the run through editing.
Yeah, and I also liked, how so far apart this was in time and space to the other goings on. So I liked its ambition. I wasn't crazy about some of the end result.
Well, we're not going to find out who the little green guy was that she went and talked to at the end of it. So
yeah. Or will we?
Yeah.
And then more recently, Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
Which
Skeleton.
I've been calling Star Wars
Goonies in space
in the best possible sense.
Yeah.
I can't imagine watching Skeleton Crew if I was 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mind
I think that, like,
yeah.
If you were a kid and watching Skeleton Crew may have been like your first real Star Wars show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you might have seen the movies here and there, but like if you sat down and watched that weekly, I mean that's going to be a good base for your Star Wars fandom, and like your lore and everything is going to come out of that. I think that would be an incredible first show for a young person.
I agree.
So.
Yeah. Bill, along with those series, there's also been 3 celebrations.
3?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So Anaheim,
21, 23, and 25. Yeah, you're
where
right.
they announced like 80 movies, and we're finally
and there's one in production. But yeah, so I went to Anaheim, did not get to go to London, did not get to go to Japan, but it is coming back to LA in 27 for the 50th anniversary, so I will be there.
Yeah, I've already started making plans.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to make plans for that myself.
Yeah,
do a little
meet
up,
up,
my little savings account just for that.
Yeah. Hey, it goals. Yeah. So, I think that has to. I mean, considering and if you watch the earlier shows, there's a generational spread here. I mean, Craig and I both saw Star Wars in its original run as kids.
Yes,
and the other 2 handsome gentlemen popped on at later points. For somebody who's been with it for 50 years, this is one you kind of have to go. I really think.
Well, see,
it's also kind of stunning. I was just looking on the wiki page of for Star Wars. I cannot call it A New Hope. I just can't do it. And the amount of people that have left us since that film was since it was made is like, it's staggering. It's really staggering. So,
I was going to say, I think there's still a bit of an age difference between Steve and I. So, I'll be 50 this year.
74. I don't know what you're talking
okay, perfect. So Empire Strikes Back, I may have said this before, I don't know, but Empire Strikes Back was the very first movie I ever saw in the theater.
Oh, wow.
In 1980. So that holds a special place in my heart. I was 5.
So, as far as celebrations go, I had a chance to go to the first one. I lived in Denver.
Oh, wow.
And I had a chance. My ex-wife was not as supportive as, you would hope that a spouse would be regarding your nerddom. So I ended up not going. But that's one of those regrets that I've had for a while.
Yeah.
What year was that? that the first?
It was right before Phantom Menace came out.
Oh,
Yeah.
so like 97?
I think 97, right before it came
I
out.
think it was 97. So it was like right before, because it was pretty much a promotion for the movie, but it was the first celebration.
Well, 20-year anniversary, all that stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Going back to it again. Yeah, I am, Mike. I'm a little bit younger than you as well. I did not see the first Star Wars, the first New Hope, until I was 8 years old, which was 1988.
Okay, that's fine. I thought you were going to say 90 something, and I was
no. But still, I
was about 6 or 7 when I saw the first Star Wars, but
I was 9. I was 9.
But yeah, those were the Star Wars, the VHS, the old VHS tapes. I had those as well growing up.
At least you saw it before it was a special edition.
Yes, yeah. But I remember being super excited when the special editions were released.
Yeah.
I was too.
And then of course you had the new prequels being released, and I'm one of those. I'm of that age where the prequels are not really all that great for me, except for Revenge of the Sith actually does have some amazing parts to it, which they've just re-released.
I was just going to ask, did anybody go see that? I did.
I think Mike, you did, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't. I actually went and saw one terrible movie and one fun but dumb movie this weekend instead. I saw Minecraft and Until Dawn. So not Star Wars. But
and Steve, I'm happy that you brought up the special editions, because out of all of the cinematic experiences I had, seeing the first special edition, that was the most rowdy audience I've ever been part of.
Oh wow!
Even more than any of the other prequels, or it was so much fun seeing that. The other two were
good rowdy, not bad rowdy.
Okay, but there was something about that particular audience on that night where it was just one of my favorite movie going experiences ever.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, those were that was, I think, the first time that I experienced the lines. Knowing what people who saw Star Wars Empire, back in the day, when it premiered, having to deal with all of those long lines waiting to get into the screenings. Well, that happened during the special editions too, and also with the prequels when they first started. I was there on the opening night screening with a buddy of mine. And I remember all of us, as soon as they moved the rope, we ran to get into the theater. And ran over, unfortunately, 2 girls. Leave her. She's too slow. She'll get trampled. That's all good. Just so excited to be in there. And then, of course, the applause when Lucasfilm, materializes on the screen. And it is kind of sad. I think one of the things that's come up pretty frequently over the past couple of years is we haven't had a Star Wars film for several years now, since The Rise of Skywalker. And of course, they promised, 3 years ago, they promised all these movies.
Yeah.
That we were
Disney bought it, they promised a movie a year.
Yeah, we were going to get a new trilogy. We were going to get a new Star Wars story, an adjacent story, kind of like Solo or Rogue One every year as well, in between.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's how Kenobi started. The initial conception of Kenobi was as a standalone.
Yeah,
it's I think one of the places where Lucasfilm has let down the fandom. I love the shows. I absolutely love having the content we're getting.
Absolutely,
but not having the spectacle of a new movie at least every couple of years has been a real kind of drag for me.
Mm-hmm. I love the idea of Star Wars being an event. I don't have to have a new movie every year. Right. I get excited then, so, but for it to have gone this long with Star Wars being an active production of other things, and I am not, here again, I'm going to use that word. I am not a hater. I am a big fan of Kathleen Kennedy, but I do think she's a better producer than she is a studio head.
I think she got scared after Solo in really kind of the backlash of the trilogy, and started listening to people online instead of making what they should be, just doing what they want to do. You make art because you have a need to make art, and you put it out there, and whether people are interested in it or not is irrelevant to you making the art.
Like, the only time I've ever heard of George Lucas responding to backlash was with Jar Jar and cutting his importance back with starting with Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
But other than that, though, you know, he made what he wanted to make with Star Wars.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
Yeah. And I also think with Kathleen Kennedy's situation, there was so much pressure on both Lucasfilm and Marvel to make Disney Plus a hit.
Yes.
You know, it was almost all focused on those two entities. Yeah. And you know, you brought it up, and I think, you know, Marvel didn't have a movie that underperformed at the point that that Disney Plus launched. Star Wars had Solo, which kind of, I think, took everybody by surprise. Like, you know, given, you know, the numbers of when you factor in what was spent on the promotion of it, you know, that it didn't lose money, but it didn't break even. And that's kind of wild for a Star Wars film.
Yeah. They released it 6 months after, what was it, Last Jedi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right along with like, I think it was Endgame.
Yeah.
You know, and so they weren't doing it any favors either by introducing a new Han Solo with so much competition.
Yeah.
It's the one Star Wars movie I've seen at the theater only one time. And it's not because I disliked it. I just only went the one time. Every other Star Wars movie I've seen probably a minimum of 5 times at the theater.
Yeah, I think for me, my one-timers were Attack of the Clones, Clone Wars, if it counts, but you didn't have a long period.
Okay, I never saw Clone
to see the
Wars
theatrical Clone Wars animated.
Well, was that like a Fathom Events kind of thing, though?
Yeah.
And Solo, I think those are the only ones that I've only went once.
Now, I saw Attack of the Clones a lot in the theater, and that's because one of my good friends, she had such the hugest crush on Hayden Christensen, and she just wanted to keep going back to that. And I was like, well, it's Star Wars. I'll keep going back with you.
And we've got a comment here from Cameron Peak, who's watching along with us. Ifs and or buts. Love it. That is, of course, Mike's little headline down there.
I wish I could say that it was an original. I saw somebody else use that, and I was like, oh, that's perfect.
But yeah, I think I have to say the prequels, I only saw once in the theater. Each one for the prequels. I was just, because I saw it once. It was great. Actually, I take that back. The Phantom Menace I did see twice. But, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, I saw once, and that was enough for me because, of course, I knew I was getting the DVDs, I was getting, the Blu-rays, everything. I'd be getting that afterwards and be able to watch it over and over again at home. And that was, I think, a little bit different than when I went to see the special editions. When those were released, I saw them basically until they were out of the theater. Like, I just kept going back and rewatching the same movies that I had watched on VHS for years, but now with like new special effects and like some different editing choices and, again, better or worse. But the prequels, they didn't connect as much to me as a theater experience after the first time. Mm-hmm. But Rogue One, oh my God. Last Jedi, I think I saw twice in the theater. Rise of Skywalker, I saw at least 2 or 3 times. I think episode 7 I saw about 3 times in the theater. But Rogue One was one I kept going back. And I think that one, which is interesting that, of course, Andor comes out of that.
Yeah.
But I think that to me was probably my favorite Star Wars movie since the originals, since episodes 4, 5, 6, because it felt the most grounded out of all of them, but also had the highest stakes out of all of them, because it was a part of the Star Wars world that we hadn't really seen before. It was all the stuff that's implied in the background, but didn't involve the Skywalkers in any way, shape, or form.
They turned the crawl into a movie, and it was brilliant.
Yeah, like something that was literally like 2 sentences in A New Hope. A reference from Mon Mothma. Like that was it, and made it just 2.5 hours of sheer just action-packed, riveting sci-fi.
And it's still, along with the first season of Andor, and I'm assuming what will after Andor season 2, my favorite thing that Disney Star Wars has produced.
Yeah. So
I think for me the champion of seeing like any movie in the movie theaters multiple times is Empire. If my count is correct, it's 19. And some of that was the summer of 1980. We had a stretch where we had lousy weather for like 4 weeks. It was raining on and off. And that summer, I mean, between that, Airplane, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind Special Edition, it seemed every day I was going to one of them and then sticking around for a second screening. Because there was a
do the little bathroom thing
camp, and they were cooler then, They were
I don't know if you guys know this about me or not, but I grew up on a carnival, and so being that age where my parents just needed us to be able to do something where they could, a couple hours of a babysitter, and they don't have to worry about you. They sent us to see Star Wars, I don't know, 20, 25 times in the theater, but
here's a quarter, go entertain yourself.
Pretty much.
Go see a Star Wars.
Go see a
picture.
Go see a picture.
When Return of the Jedi came out, I was old enough to be able to walk from our house to the theater, and I mean, we went. I can't even tell you how many times I saw it in the theater. Just it was available. It was easy to get to, and it again kept us entertained and out of our parents' hair. So
it's definitely good. I kind of miss that era, but I think Mike, you and I are both was it AMC A-listers? So now we're getting four movies a week. For I think just a couple dollars more starting next month. So I've been taking full advantage of it.
Yeah,
and
that's the greatest thing about something like that is and doing my podcast too makes me go see movies that I may not have wanted to go see or thought to go see in the theater. But A-list also kind of affords you that. This looks like it would have been. It'd be fine to watch at home, but screw it. I've got A-list. I might as well go see it. And I don't know how often I'm really going to be able to take advantage of 4 movies a week, but it's happened a couple times. It's definitely happened where I've got other friends that are on that too, and it's just like I filled up my week with movies, and I'm like, shit, I'm out of movies. I'm out of spaces now. I got to pay for that one.
I'm not paying for another movie, but and this is the kind of it's different because, like, obviously, when I was in high school too, or in college, you could go to the movies, you could jump from screen to screen, you could do that little. You said the bathroom trick. I never did the bathroom trick. I just was like, well, this movie's done. What other movies are playing right now? I'll just walk over there.
When I was growing up, they didn't care. We walked into our movies. They didn't care.
Yeah,
One of my favorite stories from my youth is that's how I got to watch Cobra.
Oh, wow.
So Bill and I are old enough to remember when double features were a thing.
Mm-hmm.
You could go to the theater and you could pay to see 2. Well, Cobra couldn't get into it because it was rated R, but it was showing with Labyrinth.
Oh, wow.
So,
Nice.
so I watched
Nice
Labyrinth
match.
and just sat through for Cobra. So they were perfectly fine selling you the ticket for Labyrinth as part of a double feature with Cobra, but you couldn't buy Cobra as part of a double feature with Labyrinth.
Craig, now that you mentioned that, I think one of the double bills I had was Monty Python at the Hollywood Bowl, which was rated R, and the reissue of Holy Grail, which was PG. And I do think that we may have like gone first to the PG one.
Yeah, it was a workaround for being able to see rated R movies back in the day.
Also before PG-13, there were some movies that never would get R's today.
Oh yeah.
Never ever would get R's today.
Yeah. I actually still remember the last time I did the buy one ticket, stick around for another movie. My ex-wife and I, of all things, did it. We went to see The Little Mermaid on a reissue of that, and then went in to see Anastasia.
Animated double feature.
Yeah, 2-for-1 animated deal.
Oh wow! But yeah, I'm excited, and hopefully, I'm hopeful here. Based on what we do have coming up, Star Wars movie-wise, we are going to see at least one new Star Wars movie.
So, Steve, why don't we just do that to transition into the news from Celebration in general? So,
absolutely.
So, if you could take over here, that would appreciate that.
So, yeah, I mean, during Star Wars Celebration this year, like they've done pretty much every time they've had the celebration, they like to reveal a lot of the new stuff that's coming out, and obviously one thing that we knew about, and I think, after the past several years of disappointments, we were kind of like knocking on wood constantly, we're crossing our fingers, was the Mandalorian film. Well, guess what? That is happening. It's already, I think the filming is pretty much done with it. They're in the post-production part of things. So it will be coming out.
Well, we even saw a trailer, right?
Yeah, I think they did have a trailer, at least a teaser,
a collection of scenes.
Yeah, which is great. So that it's like, okay, thank God that exists. It's going to be hitting us. We'll be fine. But they also did reveal another movie that's coming potentially, and already has a star attached to it. Again, fingers crossed. But it seems like a pretty sure thing, and that is Star Wars Starfighter. With who's that guy? He's in a couple things.
Ryan
he's pretty cute. The Ryan something, I don't know. Ryan Duckling. I don't know.
That's it.
Yeah,
we'll see a Star Wars movie with Ryan Seacrest.
Ryan Seacrest. Yeah, that would be interesting. But anyway. So that looks to take place, post Republic or post
Rise of Skywalker.
Post Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
So it's definitely after the latest trilogy, and we'll focus on something that's not Skywalker related. It is somebody who's part
based
of
on just the name of it. I'm picturing in my head something very similar to the X-Wing books that came out that were all post Return of the Jedi.
I think there might even be a little bit of what Patty Jenkins was working on tied into that.
Yeah.
That Rogue Squadron.
Yeah. But what makes me have more faith in this is like, they had an elaborate announcement for Rogue Squadron, but they still hadn't done anything. And the script wasn't locked down. Having Sean Levy come out and Ryan Gosling, and they're like, no, we've already been in pre-production. We're filming soon. Gives me so much more hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
See, and to me, going back to what we talked about earlier, the fact that we never got Rogue Squadron is an example of them getting some bad reviews on something somebody worked on and backing out of it. And that to me is just kind of.
I think there's that, but also I think she also has a pretty good history of being her own worst enemy career-wise. So I don't think it's like, I don't think there's one thing. She has to help her career.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly haven't seen or heard anything about her since Wonder Woman 84. So
yeah. I think I would have loved that concept. I would have loved to have seen it, but again, people get cold feet, or the studio pivots and wants to focus on other things, because of the past several years, all they've been really doing is TV, and they still have more of that coming, which is good. I mean,
I love the TV stuff.
We love the TV stuff. It's great. Obviously we were talking about the spectacle of going to see something in the theater, but what they've been putting out on Disney Plus, with some, obviously there's been, some differences in some of the quality, or at least, how they presented it, but a lot of what they're putting out is great and is finding fans. So even if you thought Acolyte was such a bad idea, there are plenty of people who loved Acolyte. Yeah. I mean, we're on here too. Same thing. If you're not really into animation, guess what? There are plenty of people who are into the animated series. Right. And there's several of those that are coming as well. So one of them, and this is kind of part of the Tales of the Empire, Tales of the Jedi, series of focused character shorts. Well, not really shorts, but focused character episodes. We've got Asajj Ventress and Cad Bane in Tales of the Underworld. And Asajj Ventress and Cad Bane, obviously, these were characters that were really big in Rebels, but also made appearances in other series. We saw Asajj Ventress in last year's, I think it was it in Visions? No, it was in Tales of the Empire.
Ventress?
Well, she was also in Bad Batch.
Bad Batch.
Yeah, and in Bad Batch. Yeah, so she's popped up there. Cad Bane was actually in Boba Fett.
Yeah.
Which was surprising to see him in a live action situation. But here we get a little bit more backstory for Cad Bane. So apparently we're going to be seeing his history, his personal history, and we're going to see more of like what's happened to Asajj Ventress after what happened to Rebels. And I think further down after Bad Batch, I think this takes place just before A New Hope or just after New Hope. I can't remember the exact timing on it, but it'll be interesting to see, these characters outside of how we've seen them, to see more of their stories. We also have another major character who's getting his own animated series, and that is Darth Maul, Maul Shadow Lord. He is going to be voiced by
Sam Witwer.
Sam Witwer, yes, also known as Star Killer and a billion other characters. He's done quite a bit for the Star Wars universe. But we get to, I'm assuming here we're going to see sort of the formation of the Crimson, his
I think they're going to wrap up the plots that were left with the end of Solo that we never got to see. Or at least that's my hope.
I'm curious as to if we're going to get an animated Kira in there.
I'm guessing that we might.
And I wonder if
she plays such a big.
The actress.
It's what's her name from Game of Thrones?
Yeah. I wanted to say Alicia Vikander, but no, that's not her.
Anyway, I wonder if they'll get her to voice her.
Why can't I think of her name?
Yeah, I would hope.
What actress? I glitched out for
it's Kira from Solo.
Oh. Yeah, she was like my least favorite part of Solo. So,
Emilia Clarke.
Yes, Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones. All that, yeah. I would hope so. I'd hope they would do that, because that character became so important in the comics.
Yeah.
During the Crimson Reign and the Hunt for Solo, all of those comic series that took place in between. I want to say it was in between Empire and Jedi. Those were great. Solo. Absolutely love those. And I thought it was a really good direction for her character, that we get to see her after what happened in Solo. It just kind of disappears, but here she became Maul's apprentice, and well, lack of a better
not Force apprentice,
mentee, I guess. Criminal mentee, and taking the reins after him. So I'm really excited about that. I think they'll be pretty cool and fill out a lot of lore on the sides of the the story that we don't usually see all that much. We don't see a lot of focus on the underworld, really. But also we are having another season of Visions, which we talked about. It's a bunch of different animation studios, mostly Japanese, but then there's also been British, Greek, Korean, Chinese, etc., who've all taken, had a hand in creating, an episode or a short as part of this. And looks like it's another, good group of studios who are going to be taking a crack this year. And then also on the video game front, and Bill, you were really excited about this as well. And I am really excited after seeing
this looks so cool. I am not a gamer at all. I thought this looked so cool.
So I missed this news. Somebody fill me in a little bit if you got.
So it's Zero Company, takes place in it's the early part of the rebellion, I want to say. But it is if you are a fan of XCOM or those types of strategy games where you have a squad of characters that all have different abilities, and you position them around and you use their abilities to get through objectives. That's what this looks like. But it's
sounding like Final Fantasy to me.
Well, it's not necessarily Final Fantasy in that type of sort of free world exploration. This is definitely more squad based strategy.
Gotcha.
So kind of actually, I take it back. Final Fantasy Tactics.
There you
go.
So is this a mobile game?
No, it is going to be a major platform and PC game. So it will be available, I believe, for Xbox Series XS and PS5, PC, and I don't know if it's going to be on Switch too. I think they are going to be ported to that. But I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm not a gamer at all, but I have watched, seen compilations of everything that's canon. So
you'll probably enjoy watching videos of this. I'm sure what's going to happen is somebody's going to take, just like they did with Jedi Survivor 1 and 2, and Battle. I think it was Battlefront 2, the one that focused on the TIE Fighter pilot. That was such a great film. It became a great animated film. When
I would absolutely love for them to mine that, for maybe like novels, because
there was a novel.
We only saw so much of her life, it felt like there were more stories to tell, especially with that particular conceit that they had. I would love that.
There's a book. I think it's actually called Battlefront.
Yeah.
And it's a lot about Iden Versio and her father and their relationship and stuff. It's really good.
That's pretty cool. It's a lot of people are not familiar with the video games, or maybe just kind of have in the opinion that a lot of them are just sort of like ports of the film or of whatever. And the old ones were. The original Atari, the original arcade, the original SNES versions of, Star Wars, Empire, and Return of the Jedi were all just sort of like aspects of those movies in some way, shape, or form. But there have been so many great, independent stories and games that sort of come out of those. I mean, going all the way back to the old X-Wing series, the old TIE Fighter series, those were just really cool to see, because they didn't necessarily have to be exactly connected to the movies. Yeah. Some of them were adjacent missions, maybe, but you were playing characters that weren't Luke Skywalker. You weren't, Han Solo. You were nameless pilot, or, nameless new Jedi, or whatever. And of course, you've got the Knights of the Old Republic series, which they really need to remake those, because as much as I love the storylines, the graphics and gameplay are.
Yeah, they keep re-releasing them, and it's just.
They just re-release them.
Yeah, they never update it. I'm looking forward to. I think we're going to get another one of the Cal Kestis games.
I think so. Yeah, it is going to be a trilogy, from what I understand.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for him to get into live action, but that's another conversation.
Yeah,
someday.
And I did see an interview with James Gunn, and with the changes with DC Universe and everything that's going to be happening this year, with the release of Superman, which was already started with Creature Commandos. That was one thing he said he really admired what Lucasfilm had done with the video games that were in canon, especially because it gives you an opportunity to tell stories that a film or even a TV series might not have the bandwidth to do.
Yeah.
That really should be out there for a character's backstory. So,
getting to see the Inquisitors from like the first Jedi Survivor game, getting to see them, in the game, but also see in Rebels, but then also in
Kenobi.
In Kenobi, like, oh look, fifth brother, like you're like, it's wild to kind of see these characters in cross the media, cross different types of media. So I'm just I'm really hopeful for Zero Company. It's going to start. It's kind of like a new direction, or at least a completely new group to follow or lore to follow. So see about that. So those are like the main highlights, but I think there were a couple other things too. Did anybody, catch any other interesting things that popped up that was announced?
Well, some of it was the audience reactions. Like when Sigourney Weaver came out and it was like an old friend, like you're finally joining us,
Right.
you've been in, you've been in the alley across the way, come join us. And I do think that there's, I think a misconception that a lot of people have about fandom is that it's necessarily ghettoized, that you're a Star Wars fan. That means you can't enjoy Planet of the Apes or Star Trek or
weird, because I like all of those things.
I don't like Planet of the Apes. Keep your
I love Planet of the Apes,
but I do think there is a rather strange alignment with Star Wars and Alien. I think because they originated with the same studio. And a friend of mine provided this, that with if you took classic rock, the Beatles are Star Wars, but Alien is the Rolling Stones. It's a little more grittier. It's a little it's a little more guttural,
tighter pants.
And I think it's a decent analogy.
Well, I think without Star Wars, you don't get Aliens, because up to that point,
not the way you got it. No, absolutely.
Up to that point, you didn't have dirty sci-fi.
No, you didn't have
everything was clean, everything was crisp and new, and
that type of R-rated grittiness, I feel like was the next evolution in what George Lucas did. And what was next.
Yeah, I absolutely will agree with that, Craig. I think Star Wars was responsible for the end product of Alien.
Yeah.
Like how it eventually came out. There may have been a version.
You would have got Aliens, but it would have been a different look.
Yeah. I mean, if Star Wars had grossed $4 million and was a one and done, who knows what history might be like at this point.
Well, I don't think Ridley Scott would have been able to make the Alien that he wanted to make. He probably would have been like as cheap as every other, sci-fi.
It would have been a B movie.
Monster on a ship.
Yep.
Which there were plenty of in the 50s and 60s.
And just in terms of, seeing, how the audience there embraced people like Hayden Christensen and Ahmed Best, who in the past have not had the greatest relationship with with fans. Let's put quotation marks. I really hope Kelly Marie Tran has her moment like that, down the road. I really do, because
she is so wonderful. I just saw The Wedding Banquet, the new version of The Wedding Banquet that she starred in just the other week, and I loved seeing her in that, because she felt so emotionally, raw as an actress, and just wonderful. And I'm like, this is what she could have continued to bring to Star Wars if the fans weren't so awful.
That's her. I thought it was Stephanie Sue.
Not a warm reaction at Celebration.
She was so good in that. But it is kind of frustrating that this period of time that of like the past maybe 15 years, that there was such a explosion of fans, but also, a rise in just like the toxic side of fandom because it was more available. It was more visible. Everybody could see it on Twitter. Everybody could see it on Reddit. Everybody could see it posted all over the place. And so it just,
I will say
the availability of vitriol increased so much that it
my
started
enjoyment
affecting.
of the fandoms has increased as I've scaled my social media intake, directly proportionate to.
I feel much better when I don't consume as much social media about the things.
Well, it's unfortunate because if you look at a crowd like Celebration, it's huge, and that's the people that are there represent the majority of Star Wars fans. Unfortunately, it's negativity and assholery that get clicks.
Yeah.
But you said that Kelly Marie Tran actually got a positive reaction when she was brought out. Is that what you said?
No, I was just saying. With these expressions of love, that you saw at Celebration for people like Hayden Christensen and Ahmet Best.
Gotcha.
I just hope she has her celebration moment.
Yeah,
like that.
She will.
Yeah. I'm certain she will.
I hope so.
It's okay. I believe it was George Lucas told her, give him 20 years, give him 20 years and you'll be as loved as anybody.
I hope John Boyega gets that too.
Yeah.
I feel like he's another one that
see what is not weird. It's almost like they have a certain kind of people and demographic they go after. It's weird.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, I thought that it was really great, and as with the previous celebrations, just like with this one, bringing out a lot of the the current stars, the current actors who are in shows that are coming up. It's just it's nice to get them to do the kind of press tour type thing, but in a room full of people who absolutely are just off, off the wall excited. Because normally when you do a press tour for this kind of a junket for this kind of thing, it's like you and just a line of reporters and bloggers and whatever who are just next into the chair to ask you the same questions over and over again.
Yeah.
Here you get yes, it's a little bit more control because you get the studio, the studio people asking you the questions. The people the studio is hired to ask you the questions, but you're surrounded by people who are so happy to see you,
right?
That I think it brings out a lot more, joy from the actors, and probably social anxiety as well, but a lot of joy, I think, and it's evident in just how they interact with each other and how they're interacting on stage, and it's kind of like that. If you're on the stage in Hall H, or if you're at the front in Hall H, you're having the time of your life, because everybody is there to just celebrate you and how much they love you. So it's definitely a really cool thing to see, those actors and the creators and the writers and the directors and everybody who gets sort of brought out to say hey, I made this thing and I love it, and I'm glad you're all here to also love it.
Right.
So. But yeah.
Well, so speaking of announcements at Celebration and people getting their due, Hayden Christensen was there and confirmed that he is going to be in Ahsoka season 2.
Yeah.
And there are heavy rumors that Ewan McGregor is going to be in it too, and part of that stems from him saying he wants to work with Hayden again, and he wants his chance to get into the Clone Wars armor. So, and he says he wants to play Obi-Wan again. So if you mash all that together, there's a flashback scene that's just, itchy.
Well, Natalie Portman's rumored as well.
I did hear that as well. Yeah.
So that would make a lot of sense. So.
Yeah. And Rosario Dawson did say that we're actually really going to get Zeb this time.
Oh, good. Yeah, not just as hey, I'm just having a drink in the bar. Hey, guys, how you doing?
She also said there's a lot of wars in this Star Wars Ahsoka.
Yeah.
That this is going to be a substantial part of it, and I'm very excited about Ahsoka.
Just don't kill Hu Yang. I'll be really mad.
Well, what's probably going to happen in like the last episode, the second to last episode.
I can't kill Doctor Who.
10,000 years and I die by a laser blast. Just like that.
Those dang Sith. What do you guys think of what's his name? Rory? I'm forgetting.
Rory Kinnear?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Rory. Is it Rory Kinnear?
No, Rory Kinnear is like.
Rory, I know, it's totally different.
I think
Rory,
he passed away at like age 92 or something.
Oh.
Yeah. I know you're talking. It's the
Rory,
replacement for Ray Winston.
Yes. Yeah. It's Rory. Whatever. I have a huge crush
Rory
on him.
McGame
I
of
had a
Thrones.
huge crush. Yes. I had a huge crush on him when I first saw him in the book club, the book group, which was a cute little comedy series on BBC years ago. And then also seeing him in Game of Thrones, even though he was horribly disfigured in that character.
But I think he's great casting.
Oh yeah.
And I guess he and what was he?
Ray Winstone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like they were friends, so like that makes it special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus,
Being able to
glad they're keeping the character and not like being like, well, the actor's dead.
Well, he went off on his journey that we'll never see.
Yeah, because they do that. Black Panther, and it's just like recast, keep the character alive.
Yeah.
It's funny because out of all the situations, that was kind of the most ideal one. If an actor died, that they didn't have to address them again because of where that character was at the end of the first season. But still, they felt there was more to tell.
Yeah.
So.
Well, because it was a great character. I mean, that's the thing. Like you have these great characters, and the people who play them are human, and things happen to us fragile humans.
Baylan Skoll's story was my favorite part of Ahsoka. Yeah. So, and where they were going with the Mortis gods and all that kind of stuff, like I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
I'm almost there with you. I thought that some of the developments with Ezra and I thought some of the post-Rebels developments were really interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm almost there with you.
I agree with you. We just didn't get enough of Ezra, which I think that we're going to.
Yeah.
I'm getting the family back together was the
Yeah, but they're separated again.
Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah, but how long is it going to last? Like 2 episodes?
Right. And then, yeah.
Reunite and like, let's kick ass. Yay.
They'll let another whale eat them and they'll get back.
Yeah. Here they come again. Let's get these whales. Yay, space whales. But yeah, I'm excited for Ahsoka season 2. I mean, like we had mentioned earlier, the Mandalorian is getting a instead of a 4th season, it's like basically a film, a continuation film. What was the next one? Wasn't there another? There was one more series that's also continuing. Oof. Okay, I'll think of it later. But it is definitely.
I don't think there are any others.
Yeah, I didn't see one unless you're thinking of animation.
Probably animation.
They have,
but it's an exciting mix of stuff that's coming out, and this seems more doable and realistic than in previous years when they've sort of promised the moon and delivered a pebble.
Nothing.
Nothing. But I mean, they delivered great stuff, but it wasn't what they were promising. It was like, okay, we've got more movies, we've got all these other things, and it's
and some of the planned movies, they're still kind of out there.
Ryan Johnson's trilogy,
and Takiti,
Taika.
Yeah,
I
do believe with Ryan Johnson, they're allowing time to pass to, kind of separate in time distance from The Last Jedi.
Yeah. Plus, I also think because Knives Out, it was been such a huge surprise hit.
Knives Out was amazing. So
Glass Onion, I loved. I can't wait
to be on its 3rd film.
Yeah.
I think that took some of the juice out.
I still don't think it's going to happen. I'm the pessimist on that one.
A better chance of that than Adventures of the Galaxy Rangers or whatever the hell that was.
Oh, well. Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, the first, what was it? The distance between, Return of the Jedi and, oh gosh, what was in episode 7? What was my brain just skipped a beat.
The Force Awakens?
Force Awakens was 14 years.
Yeah.
So we're about... Well, between
Return
of the Jedi and the Phantom Menace.
It was 14 years between Phantom Menace and Return.
And then between Revenge of the
Dark
Sith.
Times. Yeah.
Revenge of the Sith was like, what, 2003? And
the
then,
times when we should have bought the Kenner figure.
2005.
Yeah.
2005, yeah. And then, when did that come out? It was 2012.
2012 was when Disney bought it. I think... no, it was 2015. I think is when the Force
Awakens was
2015. We just had the 10th anniversary of it.
Separate,
yeah,
so it's
2015
for Force Awakens, 2017 Last Jedi, 2019 for
the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's already been 10 years since the Force Awakens.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah.
So maybe if we wait another 3 years or so, we can get.
I'm not getting any younger. They need to get back to making Star Wars.
Yeah,
it's work.
It's also as you get older, Star Wars is going to outlive me, which is very cool, but also it's hard to rectify.
There is a part of me,
comic books a lot, that these characters are going to go on without me, that I'll never see these adventures.
There's a part of me that is sad that I will not live to see all of the Star Wars content ever made.
Yeah. Very true.
However, I am still hoping that at some point I can transfer my consciousness into a computer and live on that way.
Just transfer it into a Plex server and you're good.
I'm not sure I want to be in my Plex server. I know what is wrong there.
Oh, man, having to watch Terrifier 1, 2, and 3 forever. But yeah, I mean, so at least one thing that we have that's currently going is Andor season 2. And I like how they're doing it this year. They're doing basically mini movies by releasing blocks of episodes together. So episode 1 through 3 came out last week. This coming week is going to be 4, 5, 6, and then 7.
Are they releasing 3 episodes at a time from here on out?
Yeah.
Oh, so essentially you're seeing a 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
And each one is an arc, and there's a year that separates each arc.
Rogue One.
Yeah, I mean, this was 4 BBY, and then
yep. 3, and then 2, and then Rogue One.
Okay, I for some reason thought that we were getting these first 3 episodes, but then it was weekly after this point.
No.
Okay,
and one simply does not watch one episode of Andor when there's 3 to be watched.
No. Now I gotta. Oh man, maybe I take a half day.
Goodbye bedtime. For the next couple.
That's right. 3 episodes releasing weekly until May 13th. Okay.
What I love that they did this time around is the critics were given the full season as a screener instead of just the first couple episodes or whatever. And really that kind of, if you think about a lot of these shows start strong and then kind of peter out. And so critics are often reviewing the first couple episodes and they're fantastic, and people watch and they're like, what the hell was that? But this time around, and it's this time around, everyone who's reviewed it has seen the entire thing, and they're like the first 3 episodes were great, they're the worst episodes.
Really?
And so it only goes up from here.
I'm so excited. So excited to see more, because what they've given us right now, I mean, after season 1 was incredible. Season 1 was just so, I think it introduced us to parts of the universe that we haven't really gotten to see much of, other than Rogue One, essentially. and gave us an idea of what happened between the prequel series and A New Hope. I mean, so much happened. There's 18 years worth of stuff that that involved the Empire. Like, how did the Empire actually function? Nobody talks about that. Like, how did they do their day to day? What happened for people who lived during the
loved
Empire?
seeing people having a desk job.
Yeah,
cubicles in Star Wars. It's like
overbearing mothers.
Yeah, cereal.
Like people who are real people, or like have a life of some sort.
Yeah,
they're not all like miners on a like a moon or something. Although obviously Ferrix was a mining planet. There are people who are not miners. Like there are people who are doing other things.
Seeing how people had to function and live in that world that was such a dystopian universe that they're having to live through, and just seeing what they have to do to survive day to day is just something we never, it's implied, of course, but now you're really getting to see the dark times.
Yeah. And even places where it didn't look like the Empire had a lot of a presence, but obviously their influences felt there, like with Ferrix. I mean, the Empire would show up every once in a while and like do their whatever, their checks and their, hey, we've got a little outpost here, fine. But people just kind of kept their heads down and they just kept going through their day, and getting to see that, like, okay, well, we're not constantly being shot at or imprisoned every time we do anything. It's like, this is what people who live under, an oppressive regime do. They may not see that regime all that often, but they live like they're there,
Yeah. They may not see the boot, but the shadow's there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The very large cape and big helmet shadow is always somewhere. And Marva's speech, which was what closed out the first season. After she had died, she left this speech, this holographic speech, and I think that was such a really powerful speech. I put it in, the intro to this episode, but where she basically is like, we didn't really pay attention until it was here, and now we're in the shit, and it's too late to just like say, actually, we don't want you here. No, can you go away? It's too late for that. Now you got to fight to get out, or you're stuck. And that's kind of where we are with Andor season 2. We're seeing the fight.
I love that fight,
but it's not very organized. It's not, it's hard to see a silver lining where where we start this season. So
I love that fight the Empire isn't what she actually said. You know about that? Star Wars had its first F-bomb, but they were like, now we can't use that. So they overdubbed her saying fight instead of
flirt.
Yeah, exactly. Flirt with the Empire.
Flirt with the Empire. Bet your eyes at those bastards. But yeah, I mean, I think the meeting between Luthen and Saw Gerrera, I can never get his full name, Saw Gerrera from the first season, where Saw is just basically kind of, throwing it out there like, I don't trust any of these other rebels. Like, everybody should just kind of do my thing. And Luthen's like, all right, I'll just sacrifice these. You're all a mess.
Which we see more of in this
absolutely
season.
The Maya Pei Brigade, which gets a few mentions here and there in the first season, but here we get to see what kind of absolute nincompoops they are.
Yeah.
and that's kind of indicative of like where the rebellion is. It's not a rebellion. It's a bunch of
a bunch of pockets
a bunch of pockets. People who are just resisting in their own way.
Well, I mean, because it's all leading to Rogue One, and that's when you finally get a cohesive rebellion.
Yeah.
You don't have a rebellion until Rogue One. You have pockets.
Mm-hmm. You've got planets that are, doing their thing.
Yeah.
But I thought, the the first 3 episodes, this was a great introduction to the direction that they're going.
Yeah, Steve,
since
you're so good at it, can you just encapsulate the plot of the 3 episodes?
All right. So like just taking them all together, essentially, you have good old Cassian Andor decides that he is going to be the point person to steal a prototype TIE fighter. And he barely does. And he's supposed to take it to a location where he's going to meet another pilot, and they're going to take this back, on Luthen's behalf. They're going to take that to another third party. When he lands, though, his pilot buddy has been unfortunately murdered. And in his place is another rebellion group who does not know who he is, who has no idea what's going on, and just see the TIE fighter and think, this is a guy he's clearly an imperial spy or somebody. And for the next 3 episodes, they hold him captive and essentially shoot at each other and argue and just show how completely incompetent that they are. And this is the state of this group in the rebellion. They're a disaster.
Making decisions by rock, paper, scissors.
Oh God, yeah, that was like it's a fight to the finish, and it's like rock, paper, scissors. But yeah, I mean, like this is kind of the state of affairs for the rebellion. You've got people who are making the plans, people like Luthen, people like Mon Mothma, who are then having to deal with all these different groups who are just not, they're not competent, they're not necessarily cohesive, they don't really know what they're doing. And because they're all kept very separate, because nobody wants to have all the information, they don't know they don't know one another. They don't trust one another yet.
Yeah.
In the same time, you've also got Mon Mothma, where we are actually seeing the wedding that was planned from the last season, where she was getting funding to help the rebellion, essentially setting up a foundation, getting money, in order to funnel it to different rebellious groups.
She was cooking the books and needed somebody to fix them for her because the
exactly
on it for her. On it.
Yeah, and so she gets her childhood friend, played by Ben Miles. It's Tay Colma, is the character's name, and she's invited him obviously to the wedding. Everybody's at this wedding, and Tay takes her aside and just kind of says like, "Hey, I've been having some other personal issues and some financial issues. And, I think we need to, to get more, to get so-and-so more involved, like basically the father of the groom more involved in this foundation and get, more input and say, well, unfortunately the father of the groom is also a bit of a criminal, and isn't very trustworthy. He's just the bankroll. He's not somebody that Mon Mothma wants to bring into the inner circle and let him know what this money is for. So she's got to struggle with that, as well as, with the family dynamics with her daughter, who's just who hates her for putting together this wedding to marry her off. As we're seeing sort of like this tradition.
Because I didn't get that, because I thought one of the most interesting struggles with Mon Mothma is that she's in essence a radical by her actions, and the daughter is fairly traditional.
She is.
I thought that was a very interesting dynamic.
She is fairly traditional, and it is kind of like they do mention that it's sort of in fashion again to have this arranged marriage. Yeah. But the daughter, I think, has second thoughts and is basically feeling there's a scene where she's basically, this boy that I'm being forced to marry, he's a child. Like, this isn't what I pictured. This isn't what I wanted. And you're kind of responsible for it. Yeah. You're responsible,
But
Mommy.
then she fires back at Mon Mothma about, I wish you were drunk.
Yeah, I wish you were just like your mom and just like, so I can forget about you and you're not important to me. And I think it's very hurtful again, Mon Mothma is still an extremely powerful person. She has a lot of political clout and a lot of money, but she feels very tenuous. Like, it's a very fragile position that she's in. And so she kind of has to keep up appearances, but she's got feelings. She's a human being. She's a person. She's a mom. And then also you have a more domestic look at the lives of Deidre and her now boyfriend, Cyril, who were the very emotionally unavailable people, Imperials from the first season. Deidre, who is part of the sort of Ministry of the Interior kind of like spy network that's really behind the scenes and sort of understanding and manipulating the ISB, manipulating what's going on in the Empire. And Cyril, who works in sort of like the Ministry of Information. So he's done some stuff in his cubicle that's gotten him, much more elevated
Haven't
position.
we all?
Yeah, Rob's name for her is Lady Tarkin.
Lady Tarkin. She's very like stone-faced.
Yeah.
And of course she's been brought in the opening, salvo of what the Empire is planning to do on the planet Gorman. And because of that, we have an appearance from Krennic, who is a major force, the major villain in Rogue One. So he's making his appearance here and discussing the upcoming Gorman massacre that we have heard about.
Yeah.
In different novelizations in the past, but now we'll actually get to see. It's a very interesting setup. Things are being planned. Things are.
I think
dominoes are being set up.
Should talk about where Bix and Brasso are.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the final group are essentially the refugees from Ferrix. So Bix, Will, and Brasso.
And the droid.
Yep, and the droid B2 Emo, who I love and I wish we got more of, are on a planet that's basically it's a breadbasket planet. They're a farming agricultural community, and they are refugees. They're illegal immigrants because they do not have proper paperwork.
In the most American inserted political events you could ever put into a Star Wars scene.
Yeah, tell me, Tony Gilroy, what are your political views?
And when did you start writing this? Because I know this would finished filming sometime in the middle of last year.
I mean,
so you had written this years, a couple of years back, so you knew what was coming.
Yeah.
And the Imperials have decided to lock down that planet so that they can go farm to farm to just root out any illegal immigrants.
It's very much what the Empire does is they go into a planet and they completely strip it of all of its resources and move on to the next planet. And that's what they're doing here.
Yeah. And they're making sure that they can control the population in the meantime to get them to do the work for them.
Yes.
So, and that's kind of where we find all these things happen. And of course, the last half of the third episode, everything kind of comes to a head in those locations where we've got our heroes. And it's not exactly a good place. It doesn't end on a high note for anybody, regardless of the house beats that we are dancing ourselves.
So you're saying 4 years before the rebellion really took root, it was not a good time in the Empire.
No. And also it's kind of hard to believe that's only 4 years before A New Hope, where it looks like they have a military. They've got fleets, they've got people who are, in uniform with the rebellion. But at this point, there is none. There's no uniform. There's no cohesive structure. And
I mean, it's crazy though.
These players.
Commandos.
Yeah.
The Clone Wars was 3 years. Like a lot can happen in a small span of time.
Absolutely. And we get to see it because the next 3 episodes take place a whole year later. So we get to see what happened in the meantime.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited to see.
The end of episode 3 was everybody else going, wait, are we really doing this in Star Wars? Is this something happening in Star Wars?
I mean, some we get, if you think about at the end of the wedding part of the story, when I'm forgetting the woman's name, but basically is Luthen's driver.
It is Kayla.
Cinta.
Cinta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cinta's the driver. Yeah.
Cinta. like that's some Godfather vibes, because you just know that Luthen was like, he's a problem, he's got to go. So he gets in that car with her. He won't be in episode 4.
No.
He's being Michael Corleone.
Yeah,
he is. And the fact that you've got Mon Mothma knows basically what Luthen says. Mon Mothma's like, I'm never seeing my childhood friend. I'm never seeing him again. He's gone.
Well, and what did she say to him? I don't understand what you're saying. And he said, how nice for you, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was like in that moment you knew the decision was made.
Yeah. And her sister, who is Cinta's partner, Cinta's girlfriend, had no idea that she was even on the planet.
Yeah.
Well, they haven't seen each other since the events of the last season.
And sometimes that's the byproduct of being part of a rebellion.
Right.
Yeah. Being so far undercover and being spies, just not really being able to know what the other one is doing. But when they lock those eyes as she gets in the car, now she knows what Cinta's up to and what she's going to be doing.
Well,
she
absolutely knows what's going on. And just like you see her later just kind of cowered in a corner, and just like she's heartbroken, but also just like knows that this is what's happening.
Yeah. This is their life. This is what they have to do.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed that in the meantime, this is just as a side, but like since Andor season 1, the actress who plays Cinta, who is Varada Sethu, is now Miss Belinda Chandra, who is the Doctor's companion from Doctor Who.
Oh.
Okay, I didn't know that.
I'm behind on my.
Not a Whovian.
Yeah, no.
Oh well, for anybody
I love
who is
Doctor Who, but I'm behind.
I get like moments of being excited during the Christmas shows where there's a transition, and then
I'm behind 1.5 doctors at this point.
Yeah.
It might even be more than that if somebody's explained to you how many doctors that have been in the show that aren't in the show that have been.
Yeah, there's more. Yeah. So that, and man, they're really showing you what each person is having to sacrifice to make this happen. Mm-hmm. You just talked about their relationship being sacrificed because they don't know when one's coming and when's going, and they don't get to see each other. Then you've got Bix, who is just everywhere she goes. It seems like there's somebody that's just going to abuse her in some way.
I couldn't believe we got the word rape. In Star Wars.
And that was specifically what I was talking about when I was watching. Are they really going here in a Star Wars show?
Yeah.
But it does feel like whether it's them outwardly saying rape, whether it's outwardly them saying undocumented, it's they're taking chances with this one. I really feel that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice in a sense that there is no we'll leave it up to interpretation,
Yeah.
Right.
No, this is pretty explicit.
And they gave Tony Gilroy basically carte blanche to tell his story. And after it's a well-known secret, if you will, that he basically saved Rogue One. And so then he came back and, so then he, with how well season 1 of Andor was, of course they're going to let him do what he does.
Yeah. Well, I think it would be a mistake at this point for them to pull any punches in this show, because the whole point is they've been driving it home since Rogue One, Cassian telling her, listen, guy, you have no idea what I've had to do to get to this point. You have no idea the things that I've had to sacrifice to get to this point, to do the things I've done. Yes, I'm perfectly okay killing your father if that's what it takes. I mean, so if you were to back off of that now, it would feel disingenuous, in my opinion.
Yeah. And we know that the really sad thing is that we know how it's all going to end for Cassian Andor, at least, and most of the characters.
Yeah.
Because we know that, hey, these characters don't make another appearance. So
that was such a sad thing in season 1 in the prison arc, knowing he's literally building parts for the machine that's going to kill him.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. That reveal, I was just sort of like, there's something with this. Are they building TIE fighters? No. They're building pieces of the Death Star.
There was a reveal in episode 2 that I did not catch. And I don't know if you guys caught this.
The
planet where the Maypai Brigade was is Yavin 4. I did not catch that.
Yeah, I caught that. Yeah.
They basically pan up and you see the jungle that they're in. They haven't gone very far. Like, they refuse to go very far because they're like, oh, there's things out in the woods, whether there really are or not, we're not really sure. That. But if they had gone just a few miles to the north or whatever, they would have found the pyramids that are where the eventual rebel base is.
Well, and we all want to know if those are still actually old Sith temples. Like,
maybe we'll find out.
If you read the books, they are.
Yeah, I mean, if it's extended universe or if they make that canon, who knows? Because that's all EU stuff. I don't know if they'll keep that.
They're pulling. I tell you what, they're having fun pulling stuff from the EU and making it canon.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still waiting for. Oh gosh, what's it called? It's a very specific Imperial ship that showed up in the comics. It's a planet eater, and it's just this giant mining machine that just. They land on a planet and it just completely consumes everything until the planet is.
Seems very Imperial to me.
Yeah, and I think because they kind of hinted that they might with their plans for Gorman, because they want to strip mine the entire planet of this specific mineral, and it's going to just by mining it's going to completely destabilize the planet, so the planet will blow up. Like, the planet will be completely unviable after they mine it. But I wonder if they're going to use one of those planet eaters.
They can't tell the billionaires because they're going to take their fine silk away from them.
Exactly. There's a lot of financial, fallout potentially with this.
So intricately woven, it's going to just be, no pun intended there with the silk, but it really is the details we're seeing in the background of what's going on. It's going to be so interesting to see how it plays out in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm just I am really interested to see what other kind of little things they're going to be popping up, either as sort of like an Easter egg for the future films, like, hey, we recognize these places in later in later episodes, or are we going to get a little bit more nods to to the old books,
something that
old comics, the old
Star Wars always does really well is they give you the movies and then they give you books or now television shows or animated shows or whatever that fill in all the gaps of what's really, growing up, we'd heard of the Clone Wars. Finally, we got it, right? So you have to allow Star Wars to breathe, to show us all of those things that it's so. And the longer it goes on, you get just this deeper feel of how big this world is. And yeah, it's a galaxy, but it's a world, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm hoping that in Rebels, we got Mon Mothma giving the speech of her basically denouncing the Empire. And I'm hoping that we get some version of that in this show.
That would be interesting. Or if they're just going to imply it, maybe we'll get it, as like a sound bite in the background.
Well, they're good about
exactly what happened.
They're good about that too, right? Like going back in the final season of Rebels and tying it in with Revenge of the Sith. You have this stuff happening at the same time Revenge of the Sith is going on. So you very well could have that playing in the background while something else is happening or whatever, you know.
Yeah. Oh, the final season of Clone Wars.
Or Clone Wars, I mean. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's all the same.
I know what you meant. Like, oh, this lines up pretty well. But yeah. And then the one thing that I have heard, and this is going, you know, obviously we're thinking like several episodes of Andor ahead, but they unfortunately were not able to bring back Felicity Huffman. No, not Felicity Huffman, but
Felicity Jones.
Felicity Jones. Felicity Huffman. That would be an interesting. Yeah, you know. She played Jyn Erso. But the actress who played Jyn Erso, unfortunately, was unavailable for this. So they did have to replace her with a different actress. But it would be interesting to kind of see, again, parts of Rogue One that we weren't party to. Like there were some time gaps and some time jumps in that as well that we will get to see.
There's also a lot of Rogue One that was shot that we didn't see.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
just
that was reshot.
Just think of the trailers and how much footage was there that wasn't in the end product.
Well, a lot of that was on the cutting room floor. A lot of that was Gareth Edwards stuff that was in the trailer, and then Tony Gilroy came in and reshot a bunch of it.
Yeah,
I rebel. Yeah.
And then I mean, you can end the show perfectly by having what's the robot's name played by Alan
K2SO.
Okay.
Yeah, K2SO have robot android. You know, it ends with him choke slamming her, saying, you know, we're here to rescue you.
I mean, it absolutely could. That could be, you know, how they end either an episode or the series.
I was going to say, I think I heard that it basically ends with Cassian heading to the Rings of Kafrene, where he meets up with that,
and that's perfect
that
too,
information guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we may get that guy's backstory a little bit, you know.
Why is his arm
And
broken?
that way,
Why can't he climb?
Cassian didn't care if he died or not.
It also fascinates me that with Rogue One, I thought Cassian was one of the least developed characters, and the dullest presence of the core Rogue One Resistance characters, and that, you know, this kind of teaches me, hey, you know, there's you know, just because I hate to use like a current term, but what the hell, it's like perfect right now. Just because he's not exhibiting main character energy here doesn't mean that that there isn't a story where that it is his story. So,
when you look at those characters from Rogue One, outside of his, really was the most interesting backstory you could tell, because, you know, the other one, they're, you know, Guardians of the Wheels or whatever, you know, his was the most interesting backstory you can tell, in my opinion.
Because there was the most that was left unsaid. There was a lot that he didn't like. I've done things, you know, basically was kind of a lot of the exposition that he gave, which I do appreciate. And I agree with Bill. Like, he did seem like he wasn't as fleshed out. Right. But because to flesh all that out would have taken another 30 minutes of exposition, you know, that we didn't really need.
Well, as we're finding out, 3 movies worth of.
Yeah, exactly.
4 movies. Well, yeah.
Not only 3 movies. I you know, from the previous, was it 12 episodes?
Yeah,
from
so
season
probably
1,
2 to 3 movies there, so 6 movies.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just fascinated with the 2 guys that were the Guardians of the Wills.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was an amazing story to be mine, just on the very basic level of followers of the Force who are not Jedi.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I'd love to see some.
That fascinated me.
Yeah. And I would love to see some more of their stuff and find out what was really happening on Jeddah before all of that happened, you know?
Yeah.
Find out what exactly a Guardian of the Wheel is, you know?
Yeah.
Because what we see is like, so they just kind of hang outside the temple and get money, like donations. Like, that's, okay. Yeah.
Protect the Kyber crystals on that planet.
Yeah.
Do
we
you
like them characters?
Do you think we'll find out what happened to Cassian's sister?
That's a good question.
Because I feel like that just kind of completely left any bit of the story towards the end of season 1. And
just in terms of age-wise, wouldn't it suck if it turns out that she's Dedra?
there's some theory that it's Clea, the assistant for
Luthen.
For Luthen.
Okay.
That would be because Clea is an interesting character for me. Because when I first saw her, I was like, is this somebody they're trying to pull off as a young Leia? Like, I don't really understand because of the interesting hair that she always has.
She kind of looks like a young Leia, and her name's Clea.
Leia. And she does things with her hair, kind of,
Yeah.
But this is someone who is kind of like she's the glue that holds all of the disparate rebel forces together.
Yeah.
And
she's
strikes
the one
me
who's
as somebody who
communicating with
knows where
everybody.
all the bodies are buried.
She does. And every time that they have her alone in a scene, like there's a scene in I think it's episode 2 where she flies back to Coruscant and has to go into the store alone and like reactivate the thing. And I'm like, I was on the edge of my seat in that whole 3-minute scene. I'm like, she's gonna plug in and there's gonna be like an Imperial trooper right behind her and like just all that. But no, but it's just that's how riveting she is as a relatively minor character in the show. She has such an importance, and the actress is just magnetic enough that you're just sort of like, what's going to happen? What's she going to do? What's going to happen to her? Like, it's cool. I really love seeing.
Well, it also just shows you how well the story is written. The show is written very, very well.
There's not a lot of fat here. There's not a lot of extras that are just fluffy, whatever. It's
except I do want to know the backstory of the one alien that is dancing at the wedding with sunglasses on and a bald head. I want his backstory.
Maybe that's Alan Tudyk. Maybe that was Alan Tudyk's cameo.
Listen, if this were the 90s, there'd be an action figure of that character. Even the 80s, there'd be an action figure of that character with some weird name.
Yeah.
He'd show up as a segment in the next holiday special.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of the dance, that was something that we all knew Star Wars needed, right? We needed to rave.
Yeah.
We absolutely needed Star Wars techno. We absolutely needed it.
And hey, I've got it. We can have a dance off now. I think we can dance ourselves out though at the end. But I that sequence and since then people have remixed it, but they've also like compressed and recut it together so you just see Mon Mothma, because the way this sequence was presented, it was all the different groups sort of cutting back and forth between all the different groups and all the different storylines from the first 3 episodes. Very much in like a what was that movie that came out several years ago? It's based on a book, took place in different eras, had actors playing the exact same. Cloud Atlas. There's a part in Cloud Atlas where the music sort of swells and hits its like climax, and it cuts back to all the different scenes rapidly and gets faster and faster. And that's kind of how this last episode felt, the way that it was cut. You have like this dance, like this hardcore dance rave music in the background while all these other things are happening at the same time, and just kind of tying it all together. But Mon Mothma in this, just sort of losing herself into the dancing and everything. Genevieve O'Reilly, she's been doing an amazing job.
There's so much that is reliant upon her to propel the story during the wedding. Like so much of it is her reaction
facial
upon
expressions.
Luthen.
Yeah.
Because like with Luthen, it's almost like the kind of thing like when you're on the subway and you see the cops, you're happy you're there, but why the fuck are they there?
Yeah.
So like the building tension between that bit, and everything that was going with coma. I mean, like so much of that was in her reactions, right, and her muted reactions. That I am so impressed with her as an actress.
And it's amazing that she played Mon Mothma in a scene in Revenge of the Sith that was cut. And 20 years later, or 15 at the time that they started, she gets to be brought back and play that role. And that's just what actress or actor gets to say something like that. Like, I played a character, the scene got cut. They brought me back 15 years later.
Right. Yeah. And not only that, now I have a starring role in a TV series based on that same movie.
So, I mean, if we talk about them driving off Tay in the Michael Corleone moment, Mon Mothma's having the Michael Corleones baptizing, being the godfather to his nephew at that time. She's doing the same sort of thing where she's just, I'm going to get drunk and pretend it's not going on, even though I know that it's been ordered and it's happening. She's doing very normal things, celebrating her daughter's wedding, but she's going to get completely drunk and dance at this rave for an hour.
Completely lose herself. Like, nothing exists outside of this. I have to.
I think we've all been at that point in life at various times where we're like, if we actually sit back and reflect on something, it's not good, and
right.
It's best to just lose yourself in a particular situation.
Yeah, I'm gonna let this thing that I know is happening, that I have really no control of at this point. I set it in motion, whether intentionally or unintentionally. I'm here. I may as well, get drunk and enjoy my daughter's wedding.
Yeah. Also
fulfilling her daughter's request that she be more like her grandmother and get drunk at her wedding.
Yeah. So this is just sort of a side note, but it kind of goes back to the complete non sequitur. But talking about the wedding, talking about Chandrila, the wedding gift that Luthen presents is a statue, sort of like of one of the gods or whatever. It was stolen 20,000 years ago from the temple, and they've recovered 9 out of the 20 or 11 out of the 20 or something like that. And I'm like, 20,000 years in this timeline, 20,000 years prior, some other alien race or some other empire or whatever stole all these really pretty statues, scattered them across the galaxy, and they're slowly making their way back 20,000 years later.
But it's Star Wars. We will get a comic book later that shows how that happened.
We're going to see what happened 20,000 years ago. But it's just the mind-boggling sort of time frames that we're looking at.
Yeah.
The whole Skywalker saga really only encompasses 50 years, 40 years, and here's Chandrila, who's one of the central worlds.
Well, I mean, 80 years if we go through, Last Jedi, because Luke, 60-ish.
What we've seen.
Yeah.
So here's a question. The movie that the Dawn of the Jedi kind of movie they're talking about is going to take place 25,000 years in the past. I wonder if there's anything, if there's any plans for part of that movie being taken place on Chandrila.
Oh, probably. If they're not going to just throw this thing out and then say, oh, by the way, we also have plans of doing a movie that's
we're playing in that time frame.
Yeah.
Something's going to refer back to it. Everything's a potential Easter egg for something else.
I wonder if many Bothans lost their life recovering that statue.
Did they even know what Bothans were back then? I mean, who knows?
Will we ever see a freaking Bothan?
Somebody had mentioned this before, because I think they had Bothans in one of the comic books years ago, didn't they?
Yeah,
I think so. And they were like kind of dull looking.
They were like little hairy dudes.
Yeah, they kind of look doggish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bipedal, dog, furry.
Yeah. There's a book called The Truce at Baccarat that boffins were heavily used. So there's a boffin on the cover of that book. But speaking of books, so there was a book that just came out recently called Mask of Fear, Reign of the Empire. And it takes place literally like 6 months after Revenge of the Sith.
Oh, wow.
And it's kind of broken up and it focuses on Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, and Saw Gerrera, and what kind of things they're doing with getting the ball rolling on having conversations and stuff like that. But it's still very, very, very new. You know, they're still very much in the Senate, but Saw is, you know, an outsider. But it's a very good book. I listen to it because Star Wars audiobooks rule.
Oh, I'm sure. Do they have like they have the same like the background music and the sound production? That's just sort of like
and the guy who reads them he does such a great job with the voices.
Yeah, they do a fantastic job with producing those books in audio form.
Cool. That's really good. I actually have not read any Star Wars books for a long time. I think we talked about this back in 2021 because we talked about you know, what books had been coming out that had you know, focused on the High Republic. Yeah, because that was the big thing that was coming out for the comics, and I was following the comics. But I think Craig, you had been reading, Craig and Mike, I think you both have been reading a couple of the High Republic novels that had come out at that time.
I kind of fell off.
Same. It's a lot of material to take in. Not that it's not a lot of good stuff, but sometimes you have to focus your attentions on where you can. But it's some of them were just absolutely fantastic. I love the ones that are basically the from a certain point of view, where you get to see the events happen from somebody else's viewpoint as it's happening. Those were fantastic.
Yeah.
The one book I read, and it's over there. I can't. It's basically the story of how Kira and Kanan met. That's
a New Dawn.
That's a really good book.
Yeah,
that one I really liked.
Hera. You mean Hera?
Hera.
Yeah.
What did I say?
You said Kira.
Oh, I thought I said Hera. Okay.
Yeah.
But
that one's a really good one.
Yes.
Called
We haven't seen Kira Syndulla yet, so yeah.
She's a cousin. She's like
right.
She's on the other side of the planet.
Right.
She's hanging out with Roy Kinnear.
Yeah. She and Rory Kinnear are having a blast.
That's hilarious.
Well, I guess we're almost at a 2-hour mark, so I guess we should start wrapping up. Now, on our show, we normally have something we call the Woofs of the Week, and also something we have called Geek Gets, where we either we show off things that we recently got. I do have a Star Wars item that I recently got that I do want to present. So if you gentlemen would like to share something, I can kind of get that ball rolling. Don't be under any obligation, but in terms of a Geek Get, this is when they did refashion things where there was a very definitive break between canon and legends. Some of the all ages stuff have been like kind of like a Wild West of like just incorporating areas from both. And one of those, the Star Wars Adventure comic series, was one that just didn't care where it was taking stuff from. So because of that, through Hasbro, I did get an action figure from Star Wars Adventures. So yeah, we got
Bucky O'Hare.
Rabbit. We got Jackson.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that was one Star Wars thing I recently got.
Nice.
Yeah.
Jackson is going to be showing up in animation soon.
Yeah.
I mean, is he going to be in Visions? Was that?
I can't remember which. No, it's one of the new like Lego like mixed up world kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
That's the other thing. That was the one thing that I totally forgot. Let's rewind. Let's go back and just start over. There will be another Star Wars Lego mix up what if kind of film that's coming out later this
year. I kind of love those movies if I'm honest.
Oh, I love it. I could watch the Lego Emperor Palpatine all day.
Oh, right.
I could watch him all day.
The Ahsoka is going to be like those big like blockhead like Lego things that you build, and it's going to have like the Chewbacca that you build, and it looks amazing.
Yeah, that's so cool. But yeah, that was the one thing we forgot, the Lego Star Wars, which is in its own right, an amazing sort of sub-universe of Star Wars stuff, where it's canon-ish, but also crazy and wild.
But also whatever
they want.
Yeah.
So, Steve, do you have anything that's like either Geek Get or Wolf of the Week, whether it's Star Wars related or not?
Well, I do have a Wolf of the Week, and that is a film that I just saw, and that was Sinners, which is absolutely excellent. Mike, I loved it. It had great music to it. Ryan Coogler directing, and the cast. Michael B. Jordan, getting to see Michael B. Jordan in anything, plus seeing two of them. Woof. Really great. But also, they're just the entire cast was amazing. They sung. Haley Steinfeld actually recorded a song specifically for the soundtrack. She didn't get a lot of singing time in this, but some of the other actors did get to sing their own parts, and the music is, if you like old blues, it is gorgeous. I was looking for a good vampire movie.
Oh, so good.
Scratch the itch.
They're releasing both the score and the music on two separate vinyl soundtracks, and I can't wait to get those.
That's gonna be a good get.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a good get. Well, but that's that. I'm also playing way too many video games, so like Claire Obscure, Expedition 33. Whoa, play it. Go play it. Play it in English or play it in French. It's amazing.
Okay. Well, over to Craig. Craig, do you have anything you want to?
Yeah, so I was at a metaphysical convention a couple weeks back, and they had a what do you call like a old like medical stuff or carnival stuff or whatever. And with me being a carny by birth, I've got it. It's not going to show up. Dang it! It's it's in the other room, or I would grab it. But it's a old carnival game piece where you throw the beanbag through the clown's mask and through the clown's mouth. Really a great piece. I'll get it and post it in the comments or something so that people can see.
Oh, cool. Cool. That's neat.
Sorry, I was hoping it would show up on my phone since I didn't have it in here with me, but no such luck.
It looks like Mike's going to get something.
Yeah.
I had something within reach that's worth showing.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, sir.
Okay. So a few weeks ago, my podcast co-host was like, "I've got something for you." He's like, "Somebody gave this to me," and he was like, "I knew just the person to give it to," and it's kind of Star Wars related and geeky, but it's Conan O'Brien, Jedi Conan.
Conan O'Brien ones are a lot of fun.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing. Yeah. So I was very excited to become the owner of that.
There you go.
Very nice.
Is that an Atari 2600 behind you, Bill?
Well, it is a. This is so much junk in here in the cave.
I've been looking at it through the whole show.
It is and isn't. It's the Flashback 8 Deluxe.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it is in terms of the format and has a bunch of games. My friend Vince gave this to me, but just to show you how much of a non-gamer I am. I think I've had this for like 7 months. I still haven't set it up.
Well, the great thing about about an Atari, if I were to get another one, it would be shelf porn is exactly all it would be.
Yeah.
Because the games you're like, yeah, I want to play that game again until you bust it out and play it. And you're like 5 minutes in, you're like, I'm good with asteroids for another 20 years.
Yeah.
You know?
I think I think I still have my original unit somewhere in the bunker. I don't think I ever threw that out.
I made a deal with a friend of mine that if he could beat the Raiders of the Lost Ark game on that because younger guy, if he could beat it without using the internet, I would buy him a PlayStation 5.
And I think I have like a little cube that had some of the games still.
Oh, nice.
Like Breakout and the Activision Pitfall and skiing. My mother was so good at the Activision skiing, and she'd be like, "God, you suck." Because you'd always because there would always be that thing where you cleared like 5 trees really quick, and then there'd be like 2 trees right at that. And I was always I always Sonny Bono the trees. I mean, and my mother was, because she would play the video games before she got to, because she used to get up really early,
right?
And to relax, she'd play some of the games before she went off to work, and particularly the Activision skiing, and what was the other one that she was amazing at? Tempest. Tempest, she was really good.
Oh, yeah.
I was pretty good at Tempest, but that was, it's like she would be. She died in 1984. She would be like amazed at where things are.
Right.
You know, she would be. Oh God, she would. And she didn't like arcades. She didn't like the arcade games.
She just wanted consoles.
But the home thing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she loved that stuff.
Well, arcades back then were a totally different thing. Like they probably smelled like a gym would smell like today. Like,
you mean they don't today?
Well, sweaty. I'm just thinking like a whole bunch of like sweaty teens and 20-somethings.
Yeah.
Just
they smell like regrets and sexual predators is what they
yeah, that's. I mean, when I see the opening of the original Tron movie, I'm like, man, that place has got to stink.
Yeah.
All right, so Craig and Mike. Craig, if people want to reach out to you on social media, where would they do that? I know you've
find me on Facebook is really the only place I'm still. Okay. I've got an account at Blue Sky or whatever, but you can find me on Facebook, Craig Lantz.
Okay, and Mike, between your band and your podcast, Real Game Movie, so where would people go to connect with you?
So I'm on Instagram, mlovins75, and then my podcast, the Real Game Movie Show, which is REEL, but Instagram, Blue Sky. Those are the 2 main ones. Facebook, but it's really just the stuff that Instagram that posts to there. But I'm out there. If you search Lovins, you'll probably find me just about anywhere.
Sure.
It depends on which search engine you use to type in Lovin.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much. Let us not make it 4 years and 3 months before the next time. Like we said with Star Wars Celebration, we do have a bunch of Star Wars things that we can connect on, and we'll do another one of these. I'm so happy to talk to you guys again about this.
Yeah, always, of course.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, our pleasure. So again, we are the Comic Book Bears podcast. We didn't talk comic books on this one, but that was intentional. If you want to reach back with us on, I think, May 1st, if Caleb isn't stuck in a hotel, that may be when we will reconvene next, which will be this upcoming Thursday. And again, I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Steve Morey.
If you want to connect on the Comic Book Bears, you can find us on Apple Podcasts and many of the podcasting platforms. If you want to write to us, you can do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. If you joined us through Facebook Live, thank you. If you joined us from YouTube Live, thank you. If you're watching us later on YouTube Live, YouTube proper, thank you. Please like and review. And until next time, we are your hairy heavy homos, and we'll be back real soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's dance ourselves out. Let's do a Mon Mothma dance on our way out.
All right. We got to get that feeling there. Take the